Pandemonium Reigns.
Hello, welcome to Pandemonium Reigns. Hey, we have an apology that we need to issue to you guys because we're spacing our episodes out a little bit more than we anticipated. But you know what? We do this for free. So get off my back. Okay?
Get off our back.
Get off. But all for reals aside, thank you for hanging out with us. We got some cool content we're going to be bringing to your house today, to your ears. At the time of this recording, it is a Monday, so thank you for listening wherever you are. Maybe it's Tuesday, and if it's Tuesday, you have something that you need to do. If you have my boy's number, you need to text him, say happy birthday, big dog.
I actually stopped recognizing birthday in 2021, but it's okay. I haven't communicated this yet, but after the birthdays and the age starts with the number 3, they no longer count. So forget everything Dan just said.
You're number 2 of the threes, right?
Yeah, you're number 2. Yeah. Big 3-1. What the heck? Why do you even have 31st birthday? Like, what's the point? I mean, what's the point? That's meaningless. That's a meaningless number. I already feel it in my bones. So
the birthday these last 2 years for me have been atrocious. Oh God, I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
warming up my body at the gym is so much harder.
I feel that.
Why don't these bones move? All right, so that's beside the point. Make sure you text my boy, let him know happy birthday. And if you're really cool, you'll send him, some cash on Venmo, Cash App. You'll put something kind in his mailbox, but we're not going to put his address on this podcast for his safety. Because let's be truthful, we don't trust you.
Hashtag respect my privacy.
Hey, we got some fun stuff. So as we get into this, make sure you're liking, subscribing, following us, telling people about us. So on deck for today, there was a post put out by College Football Dude on Instagram, and he broke down a bunch of programs based on different tiers. Tier 1, Dynasty. Tier 2, Contenders. Tier 3, Potential. New Year's 6. Tier 4.
I've done that before.
Tier 4, good, but not great. And we're gonna tackle these, possibly reclassify them, and even throw in some other teams potentially. I will warn you, there is only one Group 5 school on this list, and which is really intriguing.
And they also fall on Tennessee's 2023 football schedule.
Do they really?
They really do.
Wow. I don't think I knew that. Okay. Weird.
Come to town, baby. They're coming to our city.
We could potentially be adding some tiers. Maybe something like "Will never return" tiers.
Yeah.
Not set up for success tiers. I don't know. We're going to see how this goes. Potentially towards the end of the show, I will softball pitch, underhand toss Mike some opportunities to be angry.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
We'll see what happens. Is there anything else on deck that I'm missing, Mike? I don't. We've talked so much this morning already that I don't even remember.
I don't think so. It's possible that we're over prepared.
Possible that we're over prepared. I like it. So do you want to start at tier 1 or tier 4? Tier 1, work our way down. Tier 4, work our way up.
Let's start at tier 1.
Tier 1. According to College Football Dude, there is one single program in the tier 1 dynasty, and that would be the Georgia Bulldogs. That's it. It's the only one. And if you know Michael Blake Walker Jr., he's got an opinion. Let's hear it.
All right. If you want to talk about a dynasty, let me phrase it this way. I don't know his criteria, College Football Dude, whatever. Don't know his criteria. But if Alabama wins 10, 11 games, if they go to a New Year's 6, if they make it to the playoff, if they do anything but miss the New Year's 6, how can you take them out of dynasty talk? I mean, I just don't know. They're their last championship was one of the most explosive teams that we've seen. I mean, they literally came off the heels of the other most explosive team in the LSU Tigers and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and them boys. So how do you take them out of the dynasty tier just yet? I don't know. If you're talking about the chance to launch a dynasty, Georgia is the only one in that category. I agree. Are they already one? Possibly. I mean, no one's had the chance that they're going to have with as much ease looking at the schedule 6 months away than Georgia does entering 2023. Nobody's had that chance unless it was Alabama. They've typically played great out of conference games or tried to play great out of conference games, but usually teams haven't held up their end of the bargain. But I mean, Georgia's schedule, we've talked about it being Charmin soft. It's not their fault. Georgia Tech should have some responsibility there to hold up in the out of conference. They don't. Yeah. They haven't been holding that up. You know, you're not going to schedule another probably Power 5 opponent outside of them. You're probably just not going to do that until you have to. So that is what it is. But yeah, Georgia can launch a dynasty if they haven't already in 2023, no doubt. I just don't know how you take Alabama out of that tier just yet. I mean, they were close. They were close to making the playoff this year. They felt like they should be there, as many teams did and do in the current format. Clemson taking them out of the dynasty tier, I'm okay with. It's been a little longer. There's been it's been a more noticeable step back for Clemson from those title teams and Trevor and Deshaun, et cetera, et cetera. But Alabama, I'm not personally ready or comfortable with, well, really generally doubting them and taking them out of the dynasty tier just yet for me.
Okay, fair. Absolutely fair. There are a lot of similarities between Georgia and Bama going into this 23 season. I do want to add that this thing says college football tiers for 2023.
Yes, okay? That is a big detail for me.
So we're talking about 23. So a lot of similarities. New quarterback, new offense coordinator. I think the major difference in those two things is the schedule. Georgia's schedule is hot garbage. They don't play anybody until November when they host Ole Miss, right? And travel to Knoxville.
Yep.
I think we have a better understanding on who Tennessee is as opposed to who Georgia is. However, they're still loaded, and the only reason there's somewhat of a question mark is just due to that quarterback position. But I don't think they're going to rely heavy on that.
Yeah.
I think they're going to set that quarterback play up for success. Here's why I think I'm okay with dropping Alabama down out of that tier 1 contender, that tier 1 dynasty spot, is because I think that spot should be incredibly difficult to achieve. It should be even harder to sustain. Your last title was in that 2020 season, and if there was anybody who is going to throw an asterisk on that season, it's my buddy Michael Blake Walker, who I've heard do several times. They played a good Ohio State team, demolished them in that title game. However, I think Ohio State had played 6 games on the year, where Bama got a full schedule.
Yeah.
They played. So you had Tennessee, who was garbage. You had LSU, who was not good anymore.
Yeah.
Auburn, I don't remember. I'm not going to sit here and say that SEC slate was uber difficult. So I put an asterisk on that 2020 season, leaving their last title 2017.
Yes, 2017 over Georgia.
Clemson 18, LSU 19, 17.
My thing is, even though there's those qualifiers about 2020, I mean, they still had the best resume. You talk about Georgia. They did not play Georgia. They played Georgia twice that year, 2020. They played them in the regular season. I know for a fact. I remember the game because Georgia was so confident going into that. I don't remember a rematch in 2020. I don't know why. It could have happened for sure, but they played Georgia. They played Texas A&M, who was very trendy and hot in 2020, and just on the outside looking in.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation with Jimbo.
Certainly.
Overrated.
Certainly. Oh, certainly. But, they still had the best resume in 2020, all those things considered. And if anything, Ohio State would have been more fresh than a little bit more so because it was a shorter schedule, but a little fresher than Alabama was at the time.
Sure.
But still, you're right. It has been since 2020. It is now 2023.
Mhm.
So there is that for sure. I'm just like, if they get there this year, like the dynasty's not over. And I guess part of it for me is when I hear that word dynasty, my mind immediately goes back. It goes back 10, 15 years,
Okay.
20 years.
If that's the case, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough for me to think about the word dynasty for one season. In this context, Georgia absolutely has a chance to, I mean, if it's not launched, launch that thing. It is a dynasty if they win it. Again, no doubt about it. It's already right there on the brink to me with two in a row. And I mean, you know,
I think it's hard to say
both
it's
of
not.
us. Yeah, both of us hate it as much as anything. But I mean, it is what it is. And yeah, if you want to look at it in a 1 year perspective, which again, it's just tough for me when I hear that word, then yeah, absolutely. But Alabama, I mean, they love to be doubted as much as anyone. And we know how athletes and coaches value bulletin board material. And my God, since halftime or pregame of the 2022 Natty, there's been nothing but bulletin board material. Their walls cannot have anything Alabama related on their walls. It's just filled with comments and remarks and just Georgia logos and everything. I mean, seriously, it's got to be nasty. I'd love to take a tour. But I mean, nobody loves bulletin board as much as Saban and those guys, and except for maybe Kirby.
Sure,
he had those guys convinced they were going 7-5 this year.
Sure, So I think you're looking at an Alabama team in 23 that could have more than 2 losses.
I completely think so. Like, I think there's more questions for this team than they have had in a while. I mean,
sure.
Again, when I think back, there were questions in, you know, when Lane was the OC, before the quarterbacks were named Tua and Bryce. And Mac Jones, before the quarterbacks were named those guys that they won championships with and went to the championships with Sims. And my gosh, I'm forgetting.
Jacob
Coker, my word, dude. How was that guy national champion there? Not to diminish, you know, what they
almost lost to the Vols.
Almost should have, but you know, is what it is. Yeah, there's hardly ever been more questions for Alabama than they'll face in 2023. And they do play a tougher schedule, being in the West. Playing Tennessee, one of the top few teams in the East, playing, you know, the whole West slate, and then hosting Texas, which we'll see about. But still, Texas, Georgia Tech. You tell me.
Yeah.
You tell me which one's tougher.
Hosting LSU,
yeah.
And I think they're going to be improved. So
I agree.
Until then, because of the questions on Bama, because of the asterisk on the 2020 season, leaving 2017 the last title, I'm going to say you might even create like a tier 1B for them, maybe for me.
Agreed. Maybe that's my issue. Maybe it's 1A Georgia, 1B Alabama, and then if you want to go contenders, I'm cool with that. That would sit better with me.
For sure.
But it is, I mean, it's fair enough the way that college football dudes got this laid out for sure.
And I think we do have to keep considering the fact that he's saying college football tiers for 2023.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of questions on that word dynasty. What exactly does that mean? And if we're going 10 to 15, going back 10, 15 years, we're going back to 07, 09, whatever, then okay.
You can't leave them out.
Absolutely. And Georgia falls out of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, but in recent, which is what most people are looking at anyway, what have you done for me lately? I don't know how Georgia is not.
Yep.
And I just can't. There's just not enough for me to put Alabama back in there. I think I'm looking at it similar to the way that I look at the playoff. Like the playoff should be stupid hard to get into. It'd be ridiculously hard to compete in, and you're just going to open it up for everybody. It's like this, or we're just, you won 9 games. You're a dynasty. So I'm not there yet to put Bama in dynasty. I am. You played a New Year's. I about said it again. New Year's 6 game against Kansas State, whacked them. I think you're I have a lot more assurance classifying them as tier 2. I want to save the balls because they are just left of them on this image. I want to scoot over to Ohio State.
Yeah,
tell me what you think.
I mean, there is no reason that Ohio State shouldn't be in the playoffs. You know, I don't know who they play out of conference offhand like I do these SEC teams in 2023. There's no reason they shouldn't make a run at the playoffs. In fact, you know, there's Ryan Day's seat and his opinion took a hit this year for sure when they lost to Michigan the way that they did. Back-to-back years. I mean, Michigan starting to turn the tide. Ohio State not being what they've been. Those things like that. It took a really expedited hit to a guy that's kind of picked up where Meyer left it off, and just talk about putting a program on a tee, being born on third base. That's Ohio State and Ryan Day, the way that it's been. But again, there's no reason that with the quarterbacks that they have to potentially replace C.J. Stroud with Marvin Harrison Jr. and just being a receiver factory lately, there's no reason that they shouldn't be a contender. They do have to they've got to do a little something defensively. I mean, they got to show me something, or else I'm just going to pick whoever they play in the playoff again. And, that'll probably happen anyway. But there's no reason that they shouldn't be making a playoff run when 2023 is winding down. Yeah.
Agreed. Let me fly through the schedule real quick. It opens in Bloomington, Indiana against the Hoosiers, home against Youngstown State, home against Western Kentucky, at Notre Dame, home against Maryland, at Purdue, home against Penn State, at Wisconsin. That's intriguing. At Rutgers. Oh, man, that environment there. Home against Michigan State, home against Minnesota, at Ann Arbor.
Meh, but better than, minus
better
the
than years
SEC
past.
schedule. Better than Georgia's.
Oh, yeah, better than years past.
Better than, arguably better than Alabama's. Notre Dame and Texas should be kind of close this year to me, with Notre Dame adding, oh my gosh, Sam Hartman, with them adding him and Freeman building and not letting things fall apart with the losses they took last year. That should be tough. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see, but it should be tough.
Yeah. I like them in this contender spot. I agree with it. I think the questions are quarterback. I think it sounds like it's going to be that Kyle McCord kid who we just absolutely know nothing about. Yeah. You got to like his ceiling though. Again, throwing to Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka and turning around and hanging off to the guys like Hayden and such. Not saying dynasty. You haven't won one and
absolutely
going on a decade. Okay?
Yep, going on a decade.
You've been a couple times, right? Or once, 2020. You've been in the playoff several times, handful of times, but you haven't done anything with it. And then, you just left. Your generational quarterback, C.J. Stroud, never won you a conference title.
Yep.
So contenders, absolutely.
Now I want to step out of turn right here and skip, kind of do my order a little bit right here.
Do it, Bo.
Contenders, Michigan. We'll get to where they're at on this list. I view them in higher regard in 2023 than Ohio State.
I love it
because of the quarterback position, because of the stable that they return at running back, because of the continuity along the off. Well, they're going to lose some offensive linemen, but because of what they've built there, the reputation, the guys that they have to replace the ones that they lose, all those things, and returning your quarterback, even though he had his moments, you know what I mean? Yeah. Especially against TCU, but that's neither here nor there for the regular season and getting to the playoff right now. I view Michigan in higher regard. They get Ohio State at home again. Am I right?
Yes. The last game was in Columbus. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they've got a 2-game streak. I'm not saying they're going to continue it, but I view them in higher regard right now than I do Ohio State.
Agreed. You got a quarterback returning, a good one. You got Blake Corum coming back. You've recruited exceptionally well over the years. I like it. I'm sliding Michigan into tier 2 as well.
100%. Yep.
Southern Cal, I am not putting as a contender. I'm dropping them down to New York 6 because I did it again. New York 6, New Year's 6, and it's simply just due to the fact of the defense. Yeah. Until I see you figure that out, and you could arguably make that same case for us. Which we'll get to. I love everything they do offensively. Caleb Williams is back. Lincoln Riley, but this has been Lincoln Riley since he's been a head coach.
Absolutely.
So he's been, he's made his way into the playoffs, but even when it came down to a scoring battle in 2017 against Georgia, you weren't able to do that. And you had Baker Mayfield, who was,
and they had momentum at so many times of that game. Just talk about an unforgivable loss. If you want to pin one on him, that's that, I think. Yeah. No, I'm sliding them down from contender because I don't believe in their defense. I don't even know if I believe in, if you want to throw in a word like culture, I just don't believe in them yet. I know that they completely expedited the process for kind of putting things out there and making a splash with hiring Lincoln, with all the portal additions that they made last year. I'm sure they're in the portal, living in it again this year. I'm sorry. You're going to have to prove it to me, Lincoln. I mean, you really just are. Can you beat Utah? I mean, can you beat Utah? I think they play Oregon regular season this year because I don't believe they did last year. So
they've gotten away from divisions. This last year they were still running in divisions, and they're both in the South. I believe this is the first year where they don't run divisions.
Oh, that sounds right. So
who knows if that's the case?
Yeah, can you beat Oregon? Utah? Can you beat Utah? I mean, I believe it when I see it with USC. I'm sorry, they're not a playoff contender for me right now.
Agreed. Washington. Let me know what you think, and I'll pull up the schedule.
They are, man. I wish I knew more about what they return outside of Michael Penix Jr. because that dude was his best version of himself. The way that a lot of these older quarterbacks have been, Stetson Bennett, Hendon Hooker. I mean, Joe Milton's going to be one of those older quarterbacks this year. You know, the way that those guys have been, Michael Penix was fantastic. Absolutely the best version of himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, you almost can't even classify him as like a dual threat or even like a mobile quarterback. The way he just tossed it around last year.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know what they bring back outside of him.
Yeah.
They're probably in that same boat for me as USC, just outside of contention. Like they'll be probably in the 5 to 8 range when we're really talking about playoff rankings and things like that. But you know what I can't forget is last year when we were doing weekly podcasts, we were previewing and reviewing games, and UCLA came up on the schedule, I believe, and we were like, Washington by 100, and they had no answer for sure. UCLA. That comes up in my mind. I think they lost another one that I can't.
They were 11-2 on the year.
Yeah, so that's going to stick in my mind a little bit. Going to keep them right outside of playoff contention for me, right on the outside looking in.
Let's see if I can just get to their 22 campaign real quick with scores. Okay, so home against Kent State, 45-20, won that. Beat Portland State 52-6. Beat Michigan State at home 39-28. Beat Stanford 40-22. Lost at UCLA 32-40. Lost at Arizona State. That's a bad loss by 7.
That's hideous.
38-45. Home against Arizona, beat them by 10, 49-39. Beat California by 7, 28-21. Beat Oregon State, a good Oregon State, by 3, 24-21. Beat Oregon by 3, 37-34. Beat Colorado 54-7. Beat Washington State 51-33. Beat Texas in I think that was the Alamo Bowl.
Sounds right.
27-20. 11-2 campaign. Their 2023 schedule looks like this. Stop calling me scammers. Home against Boise State. Home against Tulsa. At Michigan State. Home against California. At Arizona. Home against Oregon. Home against Arizona State. At Stanford. At Southern Cal. Home against Utah. At Oregon State. Home against Wazoo. I don't hate the schedule. I don't hate
that schedule either. It feels a hair tougher, but again, it's just hard for me to get those back-to-back losses. And again, UCLA was understandable. We didn't see that coming, but it was understandable looking back at how UCLA was playing at the time and all the factors involved. But Arizona State, boy, that's just unforgivable. I mean, that's a bad loss in last season. Mm-hmm. When Herm, maybe Herm was fired that week. I don't know. He was out early, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And that was just it's a rough loss. But to bounce back from it, not lose again, that's good. But I'm just going to tell you now, they're going to be something like an 8-point dog in Los Angeles, something like that, if not more. I'm saying it could be much more.
Well, if that's a scoring battle, I don't hate them.
No, I don't hate them either. I mean, especially with USC's defense that we talked about. So that is almost your marker for the season. What are you going to do? And I think it'll be a close game as of right now. And I view those two teams very, very right on the fringe looking in.
Yeah. I actually really respect their out of conference schedule. You scheduled Michigan State, which that was probably scheduled when they were decent. I mean, I think they had a really good 21. Is that right? With Kenneth Walker,
and these schedules are made 15 years in advance. So I mean that could have been made in 2000. So
right. You played Tulsa, who was a really good Group of 5 school last year, and you play. Or am I confusing with Tulane?
Tulane was the better one, but Tulsa, they're sneaky good here and there. So that's not. It's not like playing, Central Michigan or the Sisters of the Poor and Blind. You know what I'm saying?
And you scheduled Boise, which is, I mean, just to do that logo alone, that's going to be tough. So props to them. However, I think I do slide them to a New Year 6 as well.
Yeah, I'm there.
And it's probably just based because we just don't know a lot about you, right?
Sorry, guys, we don't know you.
Seminoles, I'm excited for this one. Florida State.
Oh man, I'm so excited about
Florida
this.
State. I'm ready. Contender,
bro. Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Travis.
My man. Addition of Finchel Cypress. The addition of Jaheim Bell.
Exactly. Woo! Nothing but good additions. And I'm sure, as any program goes through, there's going to be guys graduating out and attrition here and there.
Yeah.
But, dude, I mean, bringing back my man on the defensive end that Jared Tennessee was involved with, Jared Verse, bring back Verse. I mean, building, brother. Norvell's finally building something like it. Boy, it was dry there after Jimbo left, and at the end of Jimbo's time there, and it finally feels like they might be built for success just a little bit more so than they've been. The main thing is Travis coming back, and he should have a fantastic year. Verse did not have to come back. I mean, he would absolutely have his name called probably in the first 3 rounds, if not sooner, this year in the draft. So, yeah, those are huge things for me. Go beat Clemson. Go win the ACC. Go be a contender. Do it for me and Dan.
I like it. Even though that Clemson game is going to be really tough now, I believe.
Yes.
But
I agree completely.
I like Florida State. I think they're a brand that's really hot right now. What they've done in the transfer portal, hitting some weak spots in your secondary with Finchel Cypress, adding an absolute weapon in Jaheim Bell, and I just can't wait for the Norvell staff to be like, "Hey, this is how you use this guy."
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, flex on it.
Yeah, and then you got guys. I believe his first name is Trey Benson coming back. Pretty sure he's back. You had a guy transfer out of that backfield. I don't know that it's going to be that big of a blow to you, though.
Probably not.
I think there'll be a little more 50-50 as far as balanced. I think they were a little run heavier last year, but Jordan Travis he reminds me, people are going to think I'm crazy. He reminds me sometimes of Johnny Manziel with his ability just to make plays. He is a football player trapped in that quarterback position. He can just kind of do a lot of different things. So
he's not as much like Johnny Manziel. He's just like John Manziel. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just going to make plays here and there. He's going to Houdini his way into doing some things, and your eyes are just going to pop, and your jaw's going to be open. I mean, it's going to be crazy. Like, I'm excited for this. I hope that they continue building. God bless. Does Florida need the added competition recruiting? Mm-hmm. Does that conference need them to pull some weight? Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's been dry. It's been very dry down there. So I hope that this is when sustenance comes to Tallahassee a little bit.
Yeah. I like Florida State a lot. I like them
Absolutely.
A lot. I can very much see them as a playoff team. I think if they get over that Clemson hump, and as long as they don't drop one somewhere they shouldn't, which Leary is out of NC State. Yeah. Tell me who else is a threat in that division. Sorry.
Yeah, man.
Even the conference outside of Clemson. So North Carolina. I mean,
North Carolina will be tough.
Yeah,
anyway. They'll be tough. You'll have to beat them in a scoring battle. But
if you play them, I don't even know if you play them. So
exactly.
Here we go. The beloved Orange. Listed as a tier 2 contender.
Yeah,
I'm gonna let you go first because I have thoughts.
So here's that word. Here's my my dictionary, my thesaurus coming out again. When you say contender, that means you're going to be like we've talked about with USC and teams like that being on the fringe. I don't know. Like Tennessee has to really we talked about Florida State sustaining a minute ago. Tennessee has to sustain as well to be a contender. I mean, they could absolutely do it. The schedule is not like you're playing Oklahoma or Oregon when they're super, super hot out of conference. It's not like that, but you're still playing Georgia, even though you host them. You've still got massive steps to take defensively. You're going to Tuscaloosa, having beat them for the first time in an eternity. There's a lot of big tests, even though the schedule is not that brutal, trap game, brutal. You know what I mean? It's not like that, but still contender. That means to me, you're saying that they're somewhere between like 3 and 7. Again, when the rankings are cranking up, when every ESPN commercial is who's in. That means you're like 3 to 7 or like 10 at worst. And maybe call it battered Vol, call it whatever you want. I just see more of like a regress to the norm just a little bit. I see more of like a 9-3 than like a 10-2 or 11-1. Even though again the schedule's not that bad, the major roadblocks are still there. Milton has to sustain what he's shown us he can do. Can he do it as the full-time guy? He's not got there's no one ahead of him. And granted, we didn't know Hendon Hooker was ahead of him at the time that Milton was named starter back when, but there's nobody ahead of him. If this doesn't go well, it's going to be on a freshman or a walk-on, you name it. So can the defense take the steps? Yada, yada. We know the questions. And to me, it feels more like a 9-3 than contention. And granted, 9-3 could be like you start 5-1, 6-2, something like that, or 6-1. And then those second and third losses come later with playing Georgia later, things like that. You could start hot. Absolutely. I mean, you could, but I just think that Tennessee's more of a New Year's Six threat than a contention threat for 2023.
Agreed. I'm gonna have them at the bottom half of tier 3.
Yeah,
and I think if we're talking New Year's Six, things went really well. But I'm actually I've got them split, and it could be my love for them. I've got half of them tier 3, half of them tier 4. I have questions. I have concerns because we've lost. I think a lot of it is going to hinge on our ability to produce on the ground. I like our stable, but we're losing Jerome Carvin. We're losing Darnell Wright. If we can produce on the ground, then I like what Joe Milton can do, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So with that said, until I see Joe Milton play somebody not Virginia, and a Clemson team who does not have, Briles yet, who was going through a quarterback change, even though we like Cade Klubnik, but I mean, he hadn't seen a lot of time. So I'm going to say good, but not great. I'm going to put him in tier 4.
Totally fair. The questions are just a few too many for me, so I'm good with that.
Good. Love it. All right, so that actually moves us down into College Football Dudes tier 3. And we make our way, we'll stay in the SEC, to LSU. This is really intriguing to me. He's got them tier 3, potential New Year's 6.
Man, I'm high on the Tigers, dude. I'm high on the Tigers. I mentioned this briefly at some point with Michael Penix Jr., with Joe Milton, with guys like Stetson Bennett and Hendon Hooker, the older quarterbacks. That was what I mentioned. Jaden Daniels is going to be one of the oldest quarterbacks in college football this year, and he played his best ball in the toughest conference under a first-year coach that we didn't think was a cultural fit, and they won their division in historically the last 20 years, the toughest division in college football.
Yeah.
So I'm high on these Tigers, man. I mean, they always recruit well. They hit the portal like madmen last year. So, I mean, I think their depth will be in a better place. I mean, you lose like a guy like Keyshawn Boutte, but you barely got you didn't get half of what you thought you'd get from him this year.
He was a distraction at best for most part of the season.
Agreed. And they also traversed that schedule and did what they did with that. I'm blown away by what they did in year 1 under Kelly. And I have no reason to think that a guy like him, who has sustained some success, and even, whether it was at Notre Dame or whatever, I think they're set up for a big 2023. I mean, literally, so much of it for me falls on Jaden Daniels. And I just think he's way better than I ever gave him credit for with some of the stuff he did last year.
I would be interested to know their schedule for 23. But I'm with you, man. You got to like Jaden Daniels year 2 in this system. And then they had that true freshman at linebacker, number 40. His name escapes me. He was an absolute stud.
Harold Perkins.
Harold Perkins, who's going to be year 2 in this system. I would expect him to play faster. I'm not necessarily saying that he'll have better stats or anything, but look for him to be
where the ball is.
I mean, talk about the win for Brian Kelly year 1. I think it was arguably just landing that guy.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can get their schedule here real quick. Florida State again?
Dang, dude, are they playing are they trying to adopt Florida State into the conference? Like they trying to bypass the channels?
It was a neutral site game last year. It's a neutral site
That's
game
true.
again in Orlando. That's what this is. This is what this is telling me. Let me make sure that let me look at another spot here and just make sure that yep, Florida State.
Okay, so the winner of that game is for sure a contender. I mean, for sure they're in tier 2. They're not a dynasty, but tier 2 at worst. Like you're a contender. Like the winner of that game, both of you could be. Like literally, both could be. That's a fantastic game. Oh,
for sure, for sure. So Florida State home against Grambling State at Mississippi State.
All right. I'm intrigued.
Home against Arkansas at Ole Miss at Missouri. They got a break there.
Mm-hmm.
Home against Auburn. Home against Army at Alabama. Home against Florida. Home against Georgia State. Home against A&M. When I emphasized Mississippi State, I was thinking that I was looking at Florida State's schedule, looking at LSU schedule. I'm an idiot.
No. Seriously, intriguing.
I'm okay with swapping Tennessee and LSU spots here, honestly.
That is so fair to me. Like, that's so fair. Kelly's a little bit more proven. They're returning a more important piece than really what Tennessee returns in Daniels, and then having almost, honestly, in one facet, more success than Tennessee had last year in going to Atlanta. You know what I mean? They didn't have to go through Georgia to get there, but they did admirably against them, whatever was going on with Georgia at the time. They were kind of a little weird defensively, as they ever have been here of late. But yeah, dude, they swapped them in Tennessee, and I think this list is close to perfect, really. But yeah, they're a contender, dude. Like they're so evenly matched, I feel like, with Florida State. Like that's just the perfect early season game, and it's going to tell us so much. Okay, yeah, agreed, absolutely. But Gold Nose, yeah, 100%,
Nils,
100%.
We make our way over. So we're saying we're good for tier 2 LSU, both of us.
Tier 2, baby.
Like it. Tier 3, this team, listen, let's just go ahead and build them a temple inside of this tier, because and props to him, because that success I think is really hard to sustain, and you're in a really tough division.
Yeah.
I'm not putting Penn State as a contender. I'm setting them up a camp. I'm building them a house in this tier, because they keep going to New Year's 6 games. This is what they keep doing. You're in a really tough division. I think if you're going to overcome Ohio State, this might be the year. This might be the time.
Yeah.
You're going to play a really good Michigan team who had their way with you last season, right? And I think a lot is going to come down to Drew Aller, or however you say his name, this quarterback who should be playing under center for them. So you've got the Michigan game, the Ohio State game, and this quarterback. Who is he going to be? If you get another Sean Clifford, then okay, yeah, tier 3. But if he is and doesn't this feel like a recycle pattern for Penn State, where these high profile quarterbacks come in, Christian Hackenberg, to name a few, and it just doesn't quite pan out to the potential that they're wanting it to be. So I am while being a lot running back factory at the same time, while doing work at the running back position and putting dudes in the league, and they do have a good young running back as well. Let me not forget to mention that. But I almost give them a boost because head case Clifford is on the way out. Not to bash him necessarily, but because of his inconsistencies, because of him leaving, man, I almost give them a slight boost. But you're right, their address reads potential New Year's 6 bowl, yada yada, Pennsylvania. I don't know the zip code, but that's pretty much it. I'm building them a house in tier 3 until
absolutely
just until I see something else. Oregon, quack, Ducks. I got them as a contender.
If you want to group these Pac-12 teams, USC, Washington, it goes Oregon 1, and then I think it's 2A, 2B with USC and Washington. They're the contender of the bunch to me, because if Jaden Daniels isn't the oldest quarterback in college football this year, Bo Nix will be.
Yeah.
My God. He has been in this game for 20 years. It's fine, whatever. Yeah. But seriously, if ever there's a year for him to make a jump, if ever there's a year for Oregon to do something more of note, it's got to be this year. I do view them as right there at the top of the Pac-12 and as the best contender of the bunch right now, looking at the season 6 months away.
So they did some stuff in the portal, most notably that I want to point out. Trayshawn Holden from Bama headed to
Yeah.
Oregon. I want to say there was another one that I wanted to point out. They lost quite a bit, but
Yeah.
so did everybody else.
So did everybody.
Okay, so there's that offensive lineman junior and Galalu from Texas to Oregon. Jordan Birch, South Carolina to Oregon.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
I thought there was another one. Let's see. They've got an Arizona State linebacker. They've got Tyree Jackson. He's who I'm thinking of. Alabama corner. You've got an Ole Miss safety, Tysheem Johnson. And so some work there in the portal killed the recruiting trail.
100%.
Sure is a shame that they lost Dante Thornton.
Hate that for them.
Hate it for them.
But they did sign Dante Moore, though, right? Like they were the actual the one that landed Dante Moore.
UCLA.
UCLA. That's
Dante
right.
Moore held on him. They held on to Dante for the longest time. Bo Nix announces he's coming back. Dante's like, I'm ready to play now. I'm headed south.
Gotcha.
Which is funny because he's a Michigan guy. He's out of Michigan.
Yeah.
And the Spartans thought they had him.
Yeah.
But anyway, beside the point. So there's a lot to like about Oregon, and I think Bo Nix is one of them. And you're like, well, you just don't know what you're going to get out of Bo Nix. I think you need to watch the 21 or 22 campaign again because he had an exceptional year. And it's not like oh well, people are going to figure it out. I don't. This is year 9 in college football for Bo Nix. I don't agree with that at all. If it hasn't happened already, so I'm gonna slide Oregon up to contender, man.
Yeah.
I like them to. I like them to win that conference. I think if I'm picking conference winners at this point, I'm uber comfortable taking Oregon.
We're going green, baby. Environmental friendly.
Let's keep it in the state. Oregon State. College football dude has Oregon State as a New Year's 6.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the fair spot for me. But as much as I think I know about Washington, just cut that into like 1,000. And I'm sorry, that's what I know about Oregon State. I mean, I know that they had a very strong, especially for their standards, 2022 campaign. But, I'm sorry, I don't know what you bring back. I don't know, outside of your conference slate, I don't know who you play. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, they're probably in this. I think they're probably labeled fairly here in potential New Year's 6. Looking at some of the good, not great teams that we'll get to, they might be a little high. But who's to say that they can't make a run at, and improving upon what they did last year?
So they've got some unique people on their roster. They've got a solid running back, Martinez, I think is his last name, who's pretty dang solid. They run out of the I, which is interesting. They've got this. I don't know his name. He's number 12. They do everything with him. They let him throw it. They let him catch him. They let him run it. He might even be kicking their field goals, and he might even be shooting their free throws. I'm not real sure. But my question mark, and ultimately what makes me knock them down to tier 4 is DJ Uiagalelei.
I forgot about that. My goodness, yeah.
If you can fix him, okay, but I think it's just between the ears for him, which is unfortunate because he's got all the talent in the world. Seems like a fantastic kid. I'm rooting for him. Hey, man, go do it. I'm rooting for him.
Go to New York, baby. Go to New York.
So I'm going to say good, but not great.
I'm good with that, too.
Which knocks us down to tier 4 on College Football Dudes post here. While we're moving our way down to tier 4, go ahead and hit like and subscribe because we do this for free. And so don't be a little punk and not punk. UCLA. Like I don't want to talk about UTSA unless you just want to because I have no idea what to say on them.
I know their quarterback a little bit, but I got nothing.
Who's the quarterback?
Frank. I think his name's Frank. Gosh, now you're going to call me out on it. I'm kidding, but I'm going to find him.
What's his name? Frank? Like Frank the Tank from that old whatever. Hey, I'll talk about UCLA as you're getting that pulled up. The Bruins are an interesting team for me. I have my eyes on them going into 23. You're losing DTR. You're losing Zach Charbonnet. So I think it's really going to be a matter of how well does Dante Moore fit into that QB spot because it was apparent that he's going to go somewhere where he's going to play and he's going to play right away. So I've got to think that going into this, he's QB1. until he's just not anymore. Maybe it's a DJU situation.
Yeah.
Big body, whatnot. Does he have between the years? I do think Kelly's offense would set somebody up for, like Dante Moore, for success, maybe like it would a DJU. It's those quick reads. You got to be decisive quick, easy stuff, but processing information quick. How well are you going to replace a guy like Charbonnet in the backfield? I like them. My issue with UCLA is Utah is going to Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Cal is going to score a lot of points. And who else is in the? You got Oregon, who is, again, your potential conference winner. You got Washington, who's really good. So if there's a tier 5, depending on what that tier 5 would be called, that's probably where I'm sliding them. But I like them, and I don't hate tier 4 here.
No, I don't hate it. I think tier 5, whatever it might be, would be more appropriate because of the losses that you mentioned and the newness that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
To circle back to UTSA for just a brief moment, his name is Frank Harris. Forgive me, Frank, for forgetting that, because he totaled 4,600 scrimmage yards last year. He threw for 4,059 yards, 32 touchdowns, 9 picks. He ripped off 600 yards on the ground with 9 more touchdowns, averaging 4.7 per carry. And he comes to Knoxville in week 3 or 4 or 5 this season. So he's got my attention. He's a stud. He's a 5th-year guy at all at UTSA. So props to him for not portaling out of there and doing that thing. But stud. I don't want to talk about when it comes to a list like this. I don't want to talk about the group of 5 because I don't want to acknowledge their existence. I don't want to expand the playoff. All these things. I'm sorry. Call me whatever you want to call me. But what it is what it really actually is exclusive. You have to prove something to me to be a top 4 team, to be a top 12 team even. I mean, I'm sorry. I've seen enough of Cincinnati, I don't need another TCU national championship if it's going to look like that. I know they're not group of 5, but I don't want to talk about that with a list like this because really it's, if you're not first, you're last, you know what I mean? That type thing. But yeah, I'm with you on UCLA and what is the group of 5 even?
Let me throw UCLA's schedule at you real quick and see if this changes either one of our opinion. They play 2 teams from the Carolinas. Both
Appalachian State.
Both in Pasadena. No, they open schedule with Coastal Carolina.
Oh, okay.
That's going to be intriguing to me,
especially
if Coastal still has Grayson McCall.
Yeah, and I believe they do because nobody had his major or some garbage like that, right?
Yeah.
Like Auburn didn't have it. Florida didn't have it. What are y'all doing?
Get the major. Fake the classes.
North Carolina, this thing. What are you doing? Come on.
Home against Coastal Carolina at San Diego State. Yep. Home against North Carolina Central.
Okay.
What looks like I'm going to go with a crackhead eagle. I'm not real sure what this is. At Utah. Home against Washington State, at Oregon State, at Stanford, home against Colorado, at Arizona, home against Arizona State, at USC, which is basically, home.
Tier 5 guys, I'm sorry. I've heard enough.
Home against California. The teams that you draw from the north when you draw an Oregon State, who's I think is going to be solid, and California. Okay, so here's what Dan was doing about midnight last night because he just couldn't sleep. He was watching California highlights. Like I just want to know what Justin Wilcox is doing over there in Berkeley, California. And they had some bad losses, but they had a lot of close losses.
Yeah.
They hung around with, I want to say, Oregon and stuff like that. But anyway, so now I'm not saying that UCLA is going to lose these guys, but I'm gonna stick to tier 5 for UCLA.
Yeah, tier 5.
And what would we call tier 5?
Average.
Welcome to having a tier.
Yeah. Congrats on your football program.
Oh man, sliding over Texas in tier 4, good, not great. Yes. Until I see otherwise.
I'm sorry. The target, I think we talked about this a lot actually, but I think the target on your back is as big as ever. We're going to send you out with an L if we can. I mean, that's the way that it felt for Oklahoma and Texas last year at times. And man, Texas was just almost a textbook, a masterclass on inconsistency at times.
Mm-hmm.
And they had freaking Xavier Worthy, and then they had Mullet coming back, and they had all these things. And I'm sorry, they've recruited like they're recruiting now. They've done all these things, and it hasn't come together. And now the target on your back, I believe, is bigger than it has been. So I'm sorry, you're good, not great until I see otherwise.
And the transfer portal is not being kind to them.
Yeah.
So I'm just peeking back here, and I'm all the way back in March of 22. They're just losing guys, and unless you have to go back to Ajayi Hall and Jaleel Billingsley, where they win transfer portal battles, and Isaiah Nayor, who could be a factor this year if he's healthy.
Could be. Hope he is.
But you lost receivers in the portal. You lost linemen in the portal. You lost them to SMU. You lost them to Nebraska. You lost them. One guy hasn't figured it out yet. So
one thing that could mean to me is that they're replacing those guys with more talented guys that do belong. You could look at it that way. It could just be that they're not getting their opportunities there. I mean, there's a lot of ways that who knows why a kid transfers, things like that. You know what I mean? But still, I mean, I'm not putting my stock there. If I have money on the line, I'm not putting it on that until it's proven to me.
Agreed. And you lose Bijan, and you lose that other back that they give a lot of touches to.
Yeah.
And so you're going to put this on the shoulder of Quinn Ewers, who could either do one of two things. He could either tank and lose his job to Arch, or the pressure from Arch is causing him to be better.
Yeah.
You still have Xavier Worthy as of right now.
Yeah.
I believe. I think he's still a Texas Longhorn.
I'll find out for sure.
But until that, I don't like the fact that you're losing Bijan. You lost some offensive linemen into the portal. We nabbed one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really comfortable with good, but not great.
Yeah, Worthy will be back. He's just going to be a true junior this year. So that's big for them. Nayor is certainly big if he can be healthy and be what he was pre-ACL tear. I hope he is. But yeah, good, not great.
Yeah. Sliding over to the Tar Heels of North Carolina, who has a Heisman potential quarterback, right?
Yes, absolutely.
The dude is solid. He's solid. But you lose Josh Downs.
You lose Downs.
Not saying he's the only guy out there. I mean, you have other playmakers, but we just don't know their names.
Yep.
And not saying that somebody can emerge. And Mac Brown in his time at North Carolina has put out some receivers, you know?
He sure has, yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm really comfortable here with good but not great, just because of the difficulty of that conference. You've still found ways, even when you're at Texas, to lose games that you shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. I like Drake May. Good but not great.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to me. It's just they've not really ran the table on this conference yet, and that's a big ask because of the way Clemson's been. So right. I don't value you as much as I do what Florida State brings back, what Clemson still has in the tank. Let's just not ignore that. Some things got easier, like O'Leary getting out of the conference, like Hartman getting out of the conference. Those things lighten up a bit, but you're already hanging with, if not beating, those teams. So it's really about that next step. They could make a run at a New Year's Six. I certainly don't view them as a contender, but my comfort zone is good, not great, because even though May has been fantastic and those things have happened, the defense is also left some questions out there as well.
Listen to this. Listen to the first 4 weeks of the schedule. Props to Mac Brown or whoever's doing the schedule for this. All right, so neutral site, South Carolina.
Okay, let's go. I like that game being played.
Go Heels. Yes, annual. Make it annual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Home against Appalachian State.
Oh boy, why are you doing that?
There's some Group 5 schools you just don't schedule.
Nope.
Home against Minnesota.
Wow, dude. They may be trying to make this schedule, like if they start 3-4-0, put them in the playoff.
Well, here we go. It doesn't get any easier. Week 4 or game 4 at Pitt.
Dude, that is tough.
Who's the new Q in Pittsburgh?
They signed. Did they get Jerkovich from BC?
Boston College. Yeah. You're so home against Syracuse, home against Miami. Please break the U.
Dub.
Home against Virginia, at Georgia Tech, home against Campbell.
The Camels.
The Camels. Home against Duke, at Clemson.
Boy, howdy. I mean, dude, that's maybe the best ACC schedule I've ever heard.
It's not over.
Oh my gosh.
They end it at NC State.
Okay. So NC State should experience a slight drop off, if not significant drop off. But dude, that's probably the best AC schedule I've heard in a minute. I mean, in a minute.
Yes. And if there's a tier 5, if there's an average tier 5, that's where I'm sliding them.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. After that schedule, I mean, you can only go so far with the quarterback still. I mean, you need him, but you can only go so far with him if you don't have known commodities outside of that. So yeah, dude, I'm with you. I'm tier 5 in it because that schedule is stout.
Yeah. Yeah. We slide over to Duke, and a former Dookie. Did you see this? Daniel Jones just signed himself a contract.
He got paid, son. Look at what Brian Daboll's doing, man. Wow.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Duke.
That's 2 O's, not UKE.
Yeah. And you do not want to hear the schedule.
Gosh, dude.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
They open season home against Clemson.
Golly.
They get a break where they host Lafayette. I'm not sure if that's Lafayette High School. I'm not real sure.
The Ramblers.
I'm not real sure. Home against Northwestern. At UConn.
All right.
But then here we go. Home against Notre Dame. At NC State. At Florida State.
God.
At Louisville. Home against Wake Forest. At North Carolina. At Virginia. Home against Pitt. That first half of that schedule, if you can find wins, I can't say good, but not great.
No. That's average tier 5,
tier 5,
bordering on whatever's below that, which it could be mediocre.
Yeah. I mean, 6-6, 7-5. I mean, arguably the same thing for North Carolina. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Hey, props to those schools for some
schedule like that.
For
Please
some beef.
Schedule like that.
I think North Carolina's schedule is genius. Hey, we're going to put some schools on the conference that we think that we can beat, but we're also not going to get laughed at.
Exactly.
PJ Fleck, Minnesota, respectable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Appalachian State, scary.
Scary.
Anyway. You've got Duke tier 5?
Yep, tier 5.
Okay.
Teetering on tier 6.
Yeah. Okay, fair. I'm going to skip this next one and go to Utah.
All right.
And they've got College Football Dude's got him tier 4, good but not great. I slide them up to tier 3, New Year's 6, because that's just what they keep doing with people we don't know.
Exactly. They're and they just played, so it's one thing, but they are the more Western Penn State. It's what they are.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna lose a game or two that won't allow them to be a contender. But no way they're good but not great. No way, dude. I mean, QB that looks like Dave Grohl is going to be there for year 12. I mean, I'm sorry, dude. Like,
is Cam Rising back?
I really do think he is. I don't think I'm wrong on that.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. But yeah, I mean, they are tier 3 at worst for me until proven otherwise, or until Whittingham is no longer at Utah.
I like it. I New Year's 6, absolutely. Listen to this schedule. Man, I like this schedule. This is fun.
Yes, I can't wait.
The Gators travel.
How long has it been since they played a non-conference game outside of Florida?
Yeah.
150 years.
1975. Anyway, she was still preoccupied with 1985. Pop culture reference number 1. Okay, so they host Florida. I like this. They put some beef. Same thing with North Carolina at Baylor.
Woo!
Winnable. Florida is winnable. Especially if you have a pedophile at quarterback.
Eek.
Home against Weber State. I think you can do better. Some of these schools, like they just okay. It's like Tennessee playing host to Chattanooga, which the only reason I'm okay with that is UTC gets to cash a check.
Yeah.
Home against UCLA, at Oregon State, home against California, at USC, home against Oregon, home against Arizona State, at Washington, at Arizona, home against Deion Sanders. Here's the thing,
man,
though. That's tough, but
that is tough.
They just beat USC twice.
If they so their bye week is after their 5th game. They've got Florida at Baylor, Weber State, UCLA at Oregon State. If they somehow pull off 5-0 in that stretch, I'm not saying they will. If they do, dude, they will be top 4 at that point of the season. Like,
Fair.
and they won't be moving from that spot until they take some losses.
Yeah.
Like that is a stout, just like North Carolina and some of those teams we mentioned. That's an impressive start to your season. And again, you can do better than Weber State, but teams aren't doing it. So why bother, especially when you're playing Florida and Baylor out of your conference. So
nice.
I'm blown away by that schedule.
It's tough. Props to Kyle Whittingham.
Yes.
But I'm gonna put them to go 9-3, 10-2 until I see them do something else. So this leaves us with the last program on College Football Dudes. Instagram post here. Props. Hey, if somebody knows him, give us a little. Maybe we'll tag him on our on his post here. Let him know that we talked about it. Appreciate the content.
Definitely should.
This leaves us with Notre Dame in Tier 4, good but not great. Marcus Freeman, year number 2. We know that he is going to travel to Columbus. Is that right?
They're gonna host the Bucknuts.
Okay. All right. Oh gosh, good but not great. I can't slide them up to New Year's 6. I can't do that. No. I feel more comfortable sliding them down, but okay, so here we go. Home against Navy, home against Tennessee State, at NC State, home against Central Michigan. Give me a break.
Yep.
Home against Ohio State, at Duke, at Louisville, home against Southern Cal, home against Pittsburgh, at Clemson, home against Wake Forest, at Stanford. Sam Hartman's there.
I think the way I want to put it is, if you're Marcus Freeman, boy, you cannot slip up again. You know, the comeback that we've talked about ad nauseum from last year and the early losses was strong. It was really strong, especially with the quarterback woes. But you cannot slip up again. You can't slip up against somebody not named Clemson, USC, or Ohio State. Like you better limit your losses to those teams, and you better win at least one of them, I think, for Marcus Freeman, for perception, for building anything, off of the recruiting that he's doing, because he has recruited better than they have there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's some challenges in that schedule, but it's like the way you want your schedule to be. If you're a fan of that team, they're spaced out. Mm-hmm. They have a bye on October 21st and November 11th. So they're going to play however many games, have a bye, play 2 games, have another bye. I don't get that. But again, the challenges are spaced out the way that you'd want them to be. So he better not slip up again. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, though, I'm still more comfortable with good, not great, especially over a New Year's 6. And I feel like they can do enough damage against that schedule to be 8-4, 9-3, and not be a totally average team, or whatever Tier 5 is.
Yeah, absolutely. You took all the words out of my mouth right there. Hey, as we start to land the plane on this show, what I would like to do from here is just kind of go back and forth, ping pong some teams and programs and where you would classify them real quick, maybe a 10, 15 second segment on why. And to buy you some time, I will go first.
All right, cool.
Okay, so I'll throw one out, you throw one out, I'll throw one out, you throw one out. I'm going to go ahead and slide Oklahoma in. Did I take one of yours?
That was the first team that came to mind.
Okay. Well, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I got to back up.
I'm going to go ahead and slide them. I really would feel comfortable in sliding them into tier number 3.
Oklahoma tier 3. Yeah.
But I think I feel safer with tier 4. But just for the sake of hot takes, let's go ahead and slide them into tier number 3. You got the return of Dylan Gabriel, year 2 in these schemes with Venables and his staff. The biggest issue with them last year was the health of Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
And so if he can stay healthy, you know what? And until Texas can beat Oklahoma in back-to-back years, until I see it, I'm gonna take Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. Okay.
Yep.
You just added Houston. You added Central Florida. You added Cincinnati to the Big 12. You added BYU. These are all teams that I think Oklahoma can handle, right? Kansas State is going to be down, who was a New Year's Six team last year.
Yep.
Iowa State, I imagine we'll be back in a year or two, maybe three. Tell me other problems in this conference, okay? Texas Tech, maybe,
Yeah.
Baylor, maybe. I'm going to slide Oklahoma tier 3.
I'm probably sliding them tier 5 because
you're not allowed to talk about Oklahoma. That was my team. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to hear my thoughts. I'm sorry.
You can. Go ahead.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I'm more
tier
comfortable
5, okay.
with 4-5 range. I'm more comfortable with 5. I know Gabriel's back. I know it's going to be year 2, which is where the coaches make their jump. All those things. Comfort level with Brent Venables as a defensive coach in an offensive league that is only getting better right now. It's better than it has been. It was the league of parity a year ago. Sorry, I can't put any stock or when I think about it, any money on Oklahoma when I saw what they did last year.
Fair. Okay, fair.
All right, you ready for here's who I got for you.
Let it rip, baby.
Ole Miss. They added every quarterback that entered the portal. I think that I've got a letter in the mail from Lane. I'm not sure. I'm going to go check it out in a minute. My eligibility is definitely up. I don't get it.
Oh, my gosh.
They added so much depth at the quarterback position. I mean, they already had Dart, who was plenty serviceable with their run game. Their receivers probably should take a step up because they lost guys going into last year in addition to homeboy, my gosh, their quarterback that they lost last year. Wow. Corral. Who did they lose at quarterback? Matt Corral. They lost Matt Corral. I think they lost some receiving targets as well. I think they're going to see a step up there. There's certainly a potential for a step up at quarterback with the young man from LSU, with Spencer Sanders, with Jackson Dart, who should be taking all of this very personally and only getting better. I'm not going to go so far as to pull up their schedule because, frankly, I'm so impressed that they went 8-4 last year off of their first 10-win season ever.
Yeah.
All that to say, they're in the good, not great, on the fringe of a potential New Year's Six if a quarterback plays absolutely electric. But they're in that good, not great tier for sure over teams like, Duke, the potential for Texas to go south if they continue to do what they've done. I mean, they're right there with those teams for me. I'm a big believer because of what they did last year off of 2021.
I think that's fair. I like the quarterback competition. You had Walker Howard, Spencer Sanders. And you still have Jackson Dart. You're handing off to Quinshad Judkins. You lost a solid corner to Ohio State.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get in teams like Arkansas, potentially even Alabama. This could be the year that Ole Miss, pulls the upset over Alabama. Who knows? What did you say for them? Tier 4, good but not great?
Tier 4 on the fringe of 3.
I'm not going to go tier 3 on the fringe. I'm gonna smack them right dab in the middle of tier 4, good but not great. I think there is potential there, but I'm not going to say their ceiling is that high. I know.
Real quick, let me hit you with their schedule. Boy. Mercer at Tulane, which again was a good group of 5 last year. At Tulane, I like that. If you're going to play that team, Georgia Tech, who they just God bless wiped the floor with last year. At Alabama, week 4, that is big. You want Alabama early this year. I feel that way anyway. Then you're going to host LSU and Arkansas before your bye week. Then you travel and reunite on the plains with Hugh Freeze and Auburn. That's interesting, man. That especially being at Auburn. You got Vanderbilt hosting A&M, traveling to Athens, Georgia. Boy, that's tough. Louisiana Monroe before going to Mississippi State to close out with the Egg Bowl. So the non-conference isn't great. I do like that it's at Tulane, but you can't afford to drop a non-conference. You can't afford to play with Georgia Tech or even let Tulane hang with you. You can't do that. So you gotta sweep that, and man, you got to make some noise against Alabama or someone to that effect. I think to continue building, but still, I could see 8-4, 9-3 on that if they have a step up at quarterback.
Fair enough. Okay. I don't hate that. You're going to hate this next one I'm going to throw at you, though. and we're gonna land this whole thing in 2 minutes, closing the show. South Carolina.
Gimme.
You're gonna hate this.
Where you got them?
I'm gonna put them in good, but not great.
Okay, that's totally fair.
I think they're trending. Unfortunately, as much as I hate it, you do have Spencer Rattler back. That's gonna be year 2 in this scheme. Yeah.
Yep.
You're coming off big wins. I can't remember what you did in your bowl game, but
lost it. They lost it to Notre Dame.
That's right. Shane Beamer's, a lot of people are wanting to play for Shane Beamer. You did have a little bit of an exodus in the portal, losing some important pieces like Jordan Birch and Jaheim Bell. I would still, I think overall, without even having to look at their schedule, because I know they're going to play us, and I know that they're going to play Georgia, and I know that they're going to play Florida, and I would look for Georgia to still handle them. I would look for revenge from the Volunteers, right? I don't know who they're going to draw from the West. I don't know that I like them against too many teams against the West anyway. So I would probably slap them around a 7-5, 8-4 season.
Yeah, tier 5 for me.
But a good team that doesn't quite do some things that they arguably should do. We'll find out week 1 when they play North Carolina.
Facts. Big facts. Tier 5 for me, though. It's actually a tougher schedule than I recall it being. So tier 5, some of their tests are on the road. That's unfortunate for them because they lost weapons at the tight end position. I believe they lost a running back. They lost depth on the defensive line. And frankly, they were impressive in 1 week last year. That's it. Sorry, tier 5.
You don't think that Clemson win was impressive?
I mean, I blame Clemson as much as I credit South Carolina. But sure, I mean, they at least did it. That's good for them. I would say revenge could be coming there as well, though.
If I remember right, that game was lost on Clemson's end because of a fumble.
Fumble,
a
goofy fumble.
Yeah.
Goofy fumble.
Yeah.
And they played DJ, so.
Yeah.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yes. Hey, we don't have a lot of time here, but did you have one more? Sorry for that error in audio there that you wanted to throw at us, because I threw 2. I believe you've thrown 1.
No, that's okay. The other one that came to mind, oddly enough, and it stinks because I know how I feel about them anyway. I'm sure I know how you feel about them. The one that came to mind, though, the first one was Oklahoma. Oklahoma State also came to mind, but they're certainly not even tier 4 for me. So I don't think I don't think I want to spend too much time trashing them right now because they did lose so much.
Are you about to throw another school at me, or is this the one? Because
sorry. This was the one that I thought of. If you have another one, I'm totally down though. But yeah, Oklahoma State losing a lot. Gundy's perception just has taken hit after hit lately. And how do you lose Spencer Sanders? I mean, how do you lose an Ole Miss? I'm sorry.
They strike me a bit like a Utah, where you kind of know what you're going to get with a bunch of nobodies that you know who they are.
Yeah.
I would expect something like an 8-4 out of them. Just
yeah.
I mean, we don't know anything about them, but I will admit that over the last little bit of time here, there has been some hits to Gundy's name. The offense just disappeared.
Yeah, and that's his calling card. I mean, that's his calling card. So
yeah. Hey, one more real quick, and we'll land this plane. Florida.
Hit me.
Florida.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. No, I cannot. I can't even make a hot take where I would put them up in perception. This is going to take all day. I did just think of another team I want to throw at you. I can't make even a hot take that would put Florida in tier 4, let alone anything higher than that. At Utah, props to them for finally leaving that state and out of conference. That's tough though. I mean, they're going to have last year on their mind, or they should. You go to Kentucky, who's kind of starting to develop they know 6 or 7 digits of your number. They don't have your full phone number, but they're starting to get little hints at your number, and they got better, potentially better. That's tough. At South Carolina, they're probably going to have last year on their mind, where you just wiped the floor with them somehow. Picking up Arkansas from the West, always going to play LSU, and it's at LSU. I got nothing for them, dude. I mean,
and you're always going to end it with Florida State.
Always going to end up with Florida State. Jack Miller better be the truth for them to be good. Unfortunately for them, if he is the truth, they don't have the receivers. They lose 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. I mean, they're just not what they were when they were having issues, like with Muschamp, then with Nussmeier. Was it Nussmeier?
Yes.
Nussmeier. When they did take hits, they had that, vintage like Florida defensive line at least, and they had like a corner here and there. You just had to forget about throwing to that side of the field. And they may have those guys. They may develop those guys. Mm-hmm. The hot take for me is that it could go very bad instead of any form of good.
Yeah, average 6-6, 7-5. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, you had one. You said?
I did think of one. Then
we're gonna land it. I promise.
We're gonna land this plane. Seriously,
like a Baptist preacher.
But this is why we do this podcast, folks. This is our passion. Like, this is why we love it. Kansas.
Oh, okay. Average.
Average. Yeah, it definitely could be. I mean, when you have a year like that, like, there's really only one direction it can go unless you have really, really built that thing for success. Mm-hmm. Did you know that they went 3-6 in the Big 12 last year, having that season that we all thought was so good? It just wasn't.
Yeah.
They do host this game, but they pick up still going to host Illinois in the non-conference. That's tough, especially when you're not built defensively. You're built offensively more so than defensively. You're going to Texas. They're also playing BYU in the non-conference, hosting that game as well. I mean, that's a tough start. That's a really tough start. I'm rooting for them. I really am. I want them to cause chaos, especially in that conference. Keep the parity going. But, yeah, probably not as exciting as when they popped in my mind. They sound
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I just don't even want to give that a lot of time.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Don't even want to give them a lot of time because this might be the longest episode ever for us.
It really might be. We're a marathon, this thing.
But we love you guys, and we thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I don't know how episodes are going to be going forward because we do this for free. Okay, we wouldn't have to do this for free if you would like and subscribe and tell your mamas, right, and your daddies.
I do know how episodes are going to come when the content really ramps up with spring, and as we just get into the dog days of summer, we're going to be itching to holler at you, and that's what we're going to do. Basketball season was tough on us. We were both very busy. We're going to share some thoughts with you on that, though. You're going to hear them, but just bear with us. Love us through it. Get us to 100 followers on Twitter. We're at 99, folks, and that is, I'm losing my patience with that right there. All right, get us to 100 right now.
Do it now, or die. Wow, too far.
Woo!
Fallen mud. Kidding, too far. Hey, we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for letting us tickle your ears. We never got to Michael's angry take. I'll just tell you this: don't go watch Tennessee basketball. That should be enough that for you to figure out Michael's stance on state of things. So we love you guys. God bless. Go Vols.
GBO.